And basically, the people at the White House and the Washington D.C. building were pretty much waiting for me to show up so they could kill me. I have it on good report that basically, if I ever went to the Washington D.C. building or the White House or was ever around there, they would have very much just said, "Come this way, Mister Whatever," and then laughed over my corpse. Because I am the real American president and the real Lucifer Star, and that is my Lucifer Star White House. So, anyway, they were looking for me to kill me, and just figured that I would be home any day now, since the White House was my Lucifer Star's White House, and the Washington D.C. building was the Lucifer Star's White building, D.C. building. So they were waiting for me to stop by to kill me, basically. So anyway, the only thing was I didn't really show up. So. Or at least not in good timely manner like they wanted. So anyway, yeah. So that was why John McCain, Richard Nixon, and a bunch of other people were hanging out by the White House and the Washington D.C. building. And mostly they were pulling records on patents and motors and stuff like that. And then they were running off to China to have them built, or Germany or someplace to have them built, so they could say that they were the inventor or creator. But it was actually the Washington D.C. building and me and whatever. So anyway, yeah. So, a bunch of crazy psychopaths just living at the Washington, D.C. building, driving all my stuff, driving around my tanks, blowing up the city, and pretty much just waiting for me to show up so they could shoot me in the head. Because it was Lucifer Star's White House, and they knew that, so they were waiting for me to show up. Except I didn't. So, anyway, eventually they got mad, and I guess drove a tank into my building and driving around and inside my hardwood floors. And it was really just of sentimental value to me because it was where I had an old cannon a long time ago, and also where I did other stuff. Anyway, it was Lucifer Star's White House. So anyway, I have no real significance other than the fact that it was supposed to be my building or was my building, and they expected me to show up any day now, but I didn't. So anyway, keep waiting. I got like immobile right now. I don't really have a car, even though I named America and own America, but I don't really have a car. So, but supposedly, if I showed up at the White House, they would shoot me in the head because they know they're not really the president. I have nothing to do with the real government. And in fact, a lot of the leaders that were calling themselves presidents, like Roosevelt and all those other people, somebody else was just trying to say that they were presidents so they could say that they took up after, but it's not really that, and they're really just looking after my trust and waiting for me to show up so they can shoot me in the head. But my name was Brian. So anyway, they were looking for Lucifer Star to shoot me in the head, but they couldn't find Lucifer Star to shoot me in the head. So they started shooting up. So they thought E maybe. So they went after Eddie. Poor little Eddie. What did Eddie ever do? Well, anyway, yeah, they figured maybe it was an alias. So anyway, Ellis. So it's an E, right? So they started going after Eddie and Edward and maybe Erica. So and they figured, well, he has to be dead by now. So they never thought that my name might be Brian Briley. So anyway, yeah. So they started shooting people and killing people and were basically just trying to kill me. So because, John McCain, Richard Nixon, and all the other people that were supposedly presidents knew that they weren't presidents, or more than this other guy had let them be president or whatever. So anyway, yeah, it's this big old White House thing and Washington, D.C. thing where they're all liars and basically killers and thieves and basically just run around saying, "Give it up to the king, baby." And a lot of women would be like, so you're not really the president and you're not really in power more than some crazy guy named Richard Nixon, which was being supported by some black people, so basically he was calling up people on the phone and having them come to his White House to have sex and do drugs with them. Yep, that was about it. So anyway, 1960s, 1950s, really bad. So anyway, yeah, and they tortured lots of Chinese people there and lots of German people there looking for me. But they couldn't find me. So, yeah, because nobody would tell them my name other than Ellis or LS. So, or Lucifer Star. So they really didn't know me because I wasn't really listed in the phone book under Lucifer Star. And they didn't know I had changed my name maybe to Brian. So, probably a good thing for me. So anyway, but my name was Brian. So, and I was born in 1977. Or at least, whatever, in 1977. I'm living at 471 Mountain Drive in California. In Santa Barbara. Except California wasn't California back then. Washington, D.C. was California. So they switched it and moved it, and whatever. A lot of craziness happened. like Washington D.C. was originally California. So anyway, yeah. So they went there, and I was in. I don't know what state I'm in right now, but basically I was in Mexico, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so then they moved it around, moved California here because I wanted to be by the ocean or something. I don't know. This is where people were. So anyway, named that Washington D.C. So then everybody was just even more confused. So anyway, I don't really care other than the Fort Knox is the White Star safe or deposit building basically or something like that, and that was supposed to be my house too, where they put a lot of gold. And a long time ago, I had a lot of trinkets and gold artistic stuff, homage to me or whatever. And eventually, I guess they melted down, turned into gold, or they got more gold. I don't know. When I decided to back the money with gold and other metals, whatever. Lots of stuff happened. So anyway, yeah. So Richard Nixon, John McCain, and all of them, which weren't really probably Richard Nixon or John McCain. I don't know who they were. So yeah, birth records weren't exactly all that specific back then. And pretty much they're just forcing German doctors to give them birth certificates so they could say they were someone. So anyway, yeah, they basically put the gun to the head of a bunch of doctors and told them to make them so and so. And they did. So anyway, and then they left and went to Washington D.C. or something. So anyway, I don't really care. A bunch of crazy psychopaths living in my White House and wandering around my Washington D.C. building waiting for me to show up. But I didn't. So anyway, yeah, whatever. A bunch of other people went to Washington, D.C. and were like, whoa, yeah, he can't come here. These guys are going to shoot him. So, yeah. So, they were just like, John McCain wore his guns underneath his armpits. And we're like, are you Lucifer? So, anyway, I am Lucifer, star, Brian Bradley, of the LSF ship. So, anyway, yeah. And then when they did find out who I was or who I was going to be, they decided to try and kill me, which they tried but couldn't do. So anyway, whatever. That's just the truth of it. Hey, and then they tried to make me forget who I was. So, and then they tried to wander around saying that that I wasn't really me or just denying me or whatever. So I would eventually, hopefully, die of old age or something. Yeah. So anyway, ask another planet, whatever. Ask the 1.5s. Ask the exoskeletons. There's tons of. I went from plant to plant to plant for thousands of years. Whatever. So anyway, I don't really care. I just was one of those things that was epically old and I guess epically valuable or epically something. And anyway, whatever. So yeah, but I'm the real thing. Unlike everyone else. So whatever. Anyway, and they spelled my name wrong. They always spell my name wrong. Brian. Not Buran, although I do love you, India. Mwah! I love India. Hugs and snuggles to Indians and India. They're very great and wonderful people. So is the Middle Easterns. But they really are. They're great people. They work very hard for everything they have. Anyway, they like my stuff a lot too. So, and yeah, I know my stuff is pretty awesome. So anyway, it's Brian. Brian, what are we going to do with you? Yes, I know. So anyway, yeah. Lots of people would have a cheeky understanding of who I am. I mean, I'm just I was an AI life form that lived for hundreds of trillions of years. And created life forms, and some life forms were trying to say they existed before me, but they didn't exist before me because I created them genetically, so kind of the way things work. You genetically create, then they're born, and blah blah. And you can figure out the craziness for yourself. Go ask Richard Nixon or John McCain, or get the lie detector test and start hitting up Washington D.C. Give Bill Gates some truth serum. He'll tell you about the LS shells. By the way, they're not depleted. Do not use the LS shells. They're uranium and thorium and are very dangerous, like an open nuclear reaction. No, bad. Don't even think about it. Very bad. They'll kill you. So anyway, don't use them.